This is a testimony of not only how God saved me, but shows how amazing God can be to put small puzzle pieces together without you even knowing until the whole picture or the whole puzzle is done. And He shows you the blessing that is the big picture. For years it's been a battle in our house. Clutter everywhere. Even before we had children, we had mounds of clutter. I mean keepsake boxes, tools, random scraps of wood, just stuff. Lots of stuff that we knew one day we would need. We would dream of getting a big storage building, but let's be honest, they cost a bloody fortune. Before we even had our house, I mean back to when we were engaged and we saw all the stuff, we thought we would talk about needing a big garage or a huge storage shed, the tools and more tools that kept multiplying. Then it happened, we had our first baby, and the clutter grew inside and out. Toys, sleds, bikes. Then we had our second daughter, who turned out to be a pack rat, so that did not help. She would even stash her pacifiers from the time she could crawl and cry for a new one. We never did find all those binkies anyway. We had to put our first dog down, and anyone who has had to put a dog down knows how hard the conversation is about getting a new dog. So but after about a year, Jay and I lightly discussed getting another dog, but not in front of the kids, because we knew they wanted one so bad. Just a small discussion between Jay and I of what would be a good breed to get, good temperament, not too hyper, one that would be a good fit for our family, but not be compared to our old dog. Then one sleepless night, I saw on Facebook, in one of the buying and selling groups, there was this kind of funny looking puppy. Kind of cute though. It said that they rescued the dog from a bad home, but they could not keep her. So they were giving her away because they didn't want to put her in a shelter. Jay and I talked about it and decided to not get this puppy, but just to go look. But we were definitely not going to get it, just to start opening our eyes and testing the waters. So we told the girls that we were going to go look at a dog for their aunt who loves dogs. But she couldn't go because she was on a vacation. And the kids, knowing their aunt, did not even doubt the story. Yes, we lied to them. We pulled up and, the poor dog was tied to a tree, and there were 3 young boys that were living there throwing rocks and baseballs at this poor puppy. That's all we needed to see was this filthy, beat-up dog. We told them right on the spot we would take the puppy. Not knowing anything about this dog, breed, temperament, shot record, nothing except this house that rescued the puppy did not seem to be a rescue at all. It was being abused right in front of us. We went home with nothing but a dog. No food, no collar, no leash, not even a name. We pulled up to the house, and with the kids so excited they just got a new puppy, Jay and I were totally freaked out because this was not the plan. I hopped in the driver's seat and went to Walmart and spent every penny, plus pennies we didn't have yet, on supplies to get us started. When we got paid, we rushed the dog to the vet to make sure she was okay. That's when we found out that she was not a puppy, but she was fully grown. I had no idea, since our previous dog was over 200 pounds, that this dog was fully grown at 20 pounds. We got her fixed, all her shots, found out she was actually an Australian cattle dog and needed a big yard. Oops. Oh, and something to herd to be happy. Oops again. She was so hyper and so jumpy she'd pounce all over you while showering you with love, meanwhile knocking over everything. And while she was a good dog and we loved her, Jay and I knew she needed more room than we could give her. And this breed was not a breed we had any business owning. So now we've been living in the house for about 10 years, and while we found out the day we moved in, Jay already knew the next door neighbor, we had no idea she would be like family to us. She was looking for something to do during the day, and I'd mentioned how I could use some help at the shop, and she jumped on it. Back to the house. A house that had no garage, no attic, no real storage, and a deck that was condemned. With 2 kids and a crazy dog. Literally 3 rooms in our house had turned into storage rooms. You know, off-season clothes, holiday decorations, things that the kids made or drew, supplies for projects that were half started. It was really frustrating and caused tension at times. Looking back now, I know this is when God really started putting the puzzle pieces into play. Our neighbor up the hill forgot to set the emergency brake on their Mini Cooper when warming it up one day. That car rolled down the hill, jumped the curb, flew off a 3-foot retaining wall, missed our house just barely, and smashed right into our deck. Not one scratch on the car, but our deck was totaled. Long story short, insurance covered the cost for Jay to build us a new deck. Praise God. One night, shortly after the deck was finished, while we were driving home from our friend's house, we saw a local business that was selling sheds, and it was having an inventory liquidation sale. While they were closed at the time, we decided to check it out. For several years, we had dreamed about being able to own one of these nice storage sheds. We took a look and dreamed the whole time about what we would do with this one and how nice that one would be. And wow, that one has a porch. Then we saw one that would be absolutely perfect for us. We even talked about where we'd put it in our odd-shaped yard and where the kids' stuff would go. And the tools, and well, we just dreamed. But we knew, living paycheck to almost paycheck, there was no way we'd be able to afford one. The next day, Jay was off, so he was able to go and just ask about the sale. In the back of our minds, we thought liquidation sale or not, there's no way, but figured it doesn't hurt to ask. He came home, and a few hours later, he was beaming. Not only did they allow payment options, but they were ones we could actually afford and keep the light bill paid. It turns out the exact shed that we thought was perfect was the only one on the lot that was repossessed, and not only did they deliver it for free, it was marked way down. Well, of course he took the deal and already did all the paperwork. Smart man. I wanted to go see it right away and take measurements to see if it would actually fit where we dreamed it would go. Of course, we had the dog tied up on the lead right where I wanted to measure in the yard, and she would not let me. So I decided to tie her to the rail of the deck, which I'd never done before, nor had Jay, because we had her lead exactly where she could not get in the road or the trash cans or get into anything and get hurt. Well, oops again. Out our back door, there's 2 concrete steps down to the yard, and now a hyper dog tied to a lead on the deck, or tied to the deck. So I was so excited, I ran out of the house, tape measure in hand, and this is where things get a little cloudy for me. I remember opening the door and being so excited to get the measurements. Then I remember being face down in the gravelly concrete. You see, when I opened the door and ran out, the dog got so excited she tried to run off just in time to tighten the lead around my leg, causing me to fall down the stairs. My husband tells me he saw it almost in slow motion. I swayed, and just as I regained my balance, it was as if an angel from God came behind me and said, "No, you need to fall," and kicked me down. Because I was able to catch my balance and everything looked as if it was going to be okay, then my knees buckled and down I went. I was brought to bed at that point to lay down. Jay watching me to see if I needed to go to the hospital. I seemed fine and really did not feel up to going to the car, but apparently at some point I started to slur my speech, so Jay decided that we had to go. Thank God we did. You see, God had put so many things into place for this fall to happen. We had a breed of dog that did not fit our family at all. Jay and I were both off from work the same day, which is something that never happens other than Sundays. We were getting our dream shed that by all rights we should never have been able to afford. We moved the dog's lead and attached it to the deck rail that would not have been there on the old broken deck. These are just some of the puzzle pieces that fell into place for God to show his magnificent plan. Looking back now, I must say it is absolutely awesome when God shows you his big picture. At the hospitals, the doctors wanted to see how severe my concussion was, so they ordered a CT. That's when they saw a mass the size of a golf ball in my head. So they sent us to a neurologist. Anyone who knows me knows I tend to get anxious when big stuff is happening. Like having a golf ball in my head should have totally freaked me out, but it didn't. I had a surprising calm over me. At the appointment, with the neurologist, he said that I had a tumor as smack in the center of your brain as you can get. That most people die from this type of tumor, like well over 90%, because the symptoms are so mild till one day it ruptures and you're dead. And then they find it during the autopsy. The fact that I was getting mildly dizzy when I bent down and the amount of spinal fluid that was built up in my brain means that I was very close to the end. Even with knowing I had a golf ball-sized tumor inside my brain that was about to rupture, I still had a calm over me. Of course, I would have moments of worry, but I knew he had me, and I was more worried about my girls growing up without a mom. See, I knew Haley was about to become a preteen, and Lexi was so happy in her own little world. I didn't want to have anything rip her out of that. I knew it was all in God's plan, though. I wrote my girls goodbye letters just in case. His plan was for me to go. I still knew even if I died, I knew where I was going, and I was at peace with it. And I knew that God had a plan for my girls and my husband. The last day before my Monday morning surgery was actually the first time we came to visit this church. Lexi mentioned to her Sunday school class about the surgery, and they all made me get well cards. I still have them hanging on my bedroom wall today. I have no idea how long the surgery was. I'm sure Jay could tell you every second. But before I went in, I was a little nervous, but I wasn't scared. Post-surgery, the doctors told Jay and my mom that he had to be much more aggressive than he originally thought due to the tumor was more severe than the scans showed. The original projection was 3 weeks minimal in the hospital. Turns out I spent 2 days in the neuro ICU and a total of 1 week in the hospital. The doctor said I was doing so well I was able to go home after just 1 week. We had the support of friends who brought us meals and great friends who watched our girls for the week that I was in the hospital to keep them distracted so they would not worry, allowing Jay to focus on me. My recovery was hard. I would say more on my family since I was not awake for most of it. My next door neighbor who had become like family to us over the years, the one who had jumped at the opportunity to help with the store, was now fully capable of keeping it going till I got back on my feet. When I was released at the end of the week, things were very hard to adjust to. My recovery was not an easy one, and there were some touch and go moments, but I knew it was a miracle. Our first follow-up visit with the neurologist went well. While we thought I was recovering at the normal rate, the neurologist was almost shocked at the amount of healing that had happened. Needless to say, I've had many follow-up visits, each one a little better than the last. As soon as I was strong enough, we came back to this church because we felt God here. During my last appointment with the neurologist, that was like most neurologists, not only had a small God complex, but was one of the least warm and fuzzy people you can imagine, his next words shocked me. When I said, "Thank you so much for everything," he looked at me and said, "I didn't do anything. You are a miracle. And the fact that you've healed so much so soon, you're my miracle patient." And then he hugged me. The past year's been tough on me and my family. I still have some memory issues, but I thank God for allowing me more time with my girls and my husband, and for showing us this church that's become a home for us. Side note, that hyper dog that was used to show us the tumor, well, about a month after my surgery, our next door neighbor on the other side came by and mentioned that her assistant, who lives on a farm, was looking for another Australian cattle dog. And she already has 2, but wanted a 3rd for their farm. You see, her dogs are her babies. They have no children. They even have Christmas for their dogs. They work from home just to be with their dogs all day. Their dogs are absolutely spoiled rotten. We prayed, and even though it broke our hearts, we realized Foxy would be happier with them. We get pictures from time to time. You see, God, He used a rescue dog to save my life, and He, in turn, used us to save hers. And we did not plan this at all, but the surgery was on April 26th, exactly 1 year ago today.